High Court is expected to hear former Bosasa COO Angelo Agrizzi's bail appeal for his fraud and corruption case. The Specialised Commercial Crimes Court, sitting in the Palm Ridge Magistrate's Court in Johannesburg, turned down his bail application more than a week ago after the state argued he was a flight risk. Agrizzi is currently facing fraud and corruption charges dating back to when he was working for Bosasa, which is now trading as African Global Operations. Agrizzi is currently in hospital after suffering a heart attack last week. All right, I want to get the very latest now and bring in our reporter, Samkele Maseko, who's at court. Samkele, a very good morning to you. Firstly, before we talk about court proceedings, what do we know about Angelo Agrizzi's health status?
What we do know is that Angelo Agrizzi is still in a private hospital after he suffered a heart attack last week. He's still very ill and he's in hospital. We spoke to his lawyer, Daniel Witz, who said that Angelo Agrizzi won't be here at the High Court, Johannesburg High Court, today for his appeal on that Specialised Commercial Crimes Court sitting at the Palm Ridge Magistrate's Court, denying him bail a few weeks ago, saying that he's a flight risk, particularly after he failed to declare about 30 million worth of assets that are currently held in Italy that he never declared to law enforcement agencies in the country, and particularly after he said that his Italian passport had been lost. His legal team then filed an urgent application here in the Johannesburg High Court so that he's able to be granted bail and is able to receive medical health care. We do know that when he was in the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court, he was breathing through an oxygen machine, which ultimately his lawyers did speak to the magistrate, Philip Venter, to try and organize for correctional services to take him to a facility which would cater for his medical needs. Unfortunately, the correctional services couldn't cater for those medical needs, and he had to be rushed to a public facility where he was given oxygen and later transferred to a private facility. We do also know that his wife did speak to one of the media organizations in the country and spoke about Angelo Agrizzi's ill health. It's rather interesting that many of those who are charged with fraud, corruption and money laundering in the country, some of which do end up falling sick in South Africa's hospitals, whether in the public and also in the private healthcare facilities.
Samkele, do we know from Angelo Agrizzi's legal team what sort of new arguments will they be putting forward with regards to this bail application?
We do expect his legal team to put forth an argument that is medically related when it comes to Angelo Agrizzi's medical health. We do know that he did suffer that heart attack. We do know that his legal team will be pushing arguments that will seek to portray him as a very sickly person, a person who needs specific health care. We also do know that during the court appearance at the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court, his legal team did put forth some medical arguments, particularly saying that he's supported by oxygen machines in his luxurious home in the suburbs, and that he just had that oxygen particularly a machine that he was carrying with him, which could not carry him throughout a longer period with that particular facility, which ultimately led to him having to go to a public healthcare facility for oxygen, and ultimately going to a private healthcare facility, which he is currently at right now. So the arguments will be largely medical, as opposed to his financial resources, as opposed to him not being a flight risk. They're going to argue on a medical basis, looking at his rather disappointing or bad health of state.
Just talk to us, Samkele, with regards to the initial bail application and why the state opposed bail for Angelo Agrizzi. What were the reasons?
The state initially was not going to oppose the bail application of Angelo Agrizzi until the 11th hour, when they appeared at the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court. Through the investigating directorate's head, they were able to find and to investigate that Angelo Agrizzi had large sums of amount of money amounting to about 30 million rands that were liquid, that he had taken offshore in the country, particularly during the time period where he was busy negotiating with with law enforcement agencies in the country, and after he had turned state witness and particularly became a whistleblower of all the shenanigans that were happening at African Global Operations, formerly trading as Bosasa. He then transferred about 11.8 million rands to offshore accounts, also transferred about 11.9 million rands through his wife to an Italian bank account, and he then purchased an expensive villa in Italy as long as a luxurious vehicle, which the state then said that it was a clear indication that Angelo Agrizzi was a flight risk and was preparing for life outside of South Africa, and that he was evade law enforcement agencies and evade the criminal justice system in the country and escape to go and live a rather comfortable and luxurious lifestyle in Italy, which many middle-class families in the country would only dream of having those resources. It also came to the fore that Angelo Agrizzi in the country, through his Agrizzi Family Trust, has about 205 million rands worth of assets that are movable, and has about 30 million rands of assets that are immovable in the country but are not registered to his name. Are registered to the Angelo Agrizzi Family Trust, which make it virtually impossible for the state to attach those particular assets and the home, which is worth about 14 million rands, where he is currently residing, which currently owes an ABSA, a commercial bank, to the tune of 8.7 million rands of a mortgage.
You know, Samkele, I was just looking at my notes with regards to some of the utterances from Angelo Agrizzi's legal team, which raised a lot of eyebrows the last time around when he said that everything that relates to the late Mr. Gavin Watson, if he is the late Gavin Watson, we don't know about that at this stage. He tried to walk that back a bit towards the end of the proceedings, but any pushback with regards to that statement?
There's been no pushback at this point in time. His legal team did apologize to the Watson family on those utterances, but those particular comments have been raging, particularly within the social media space. Many South Africans doubting that Gavin Watson is indeed late. Some of them even questioning me, saying that you were one of the first people on the scenes to report on this particular matter. Did you see the remains of Gavin Watson in the car wreckage? Did you see a death certificate? I'm like, I couldn't give any answers to those particular questions, despite seeing visuals of the late Gavin Watson in that particular wreckage of that Toyota Corolla, which crashed on one of the pillars going to the Ora Tambo International Airport. But his legal team did go back on those comments of saying they even doubt that the late Gavin Watson is late indeed.
Samkele Maseko, live for us in Johannesburg. Thank you, sir. Well, in other news, the bail application